We are fortunate to have as our commencement speaker this evening, Dr. Robbin Smith, a professor of political science at Central Connecticut State University, who has been an active member of the faculty since 2008. This year, Dr. Smith had the unique honor of receiving the 2013 Full-Time Excellence in Teaching Award, an honor that both her peers and students believe is well-deserved. According to Professor Paul Petterson, the chair of the Political Science Department, Dr. Smith goes above and beyond to find ways to make political knowledge meaningful to her students. She's devoted enormous effort to create exercises that get students to feel like members of Congress and understand the inherent pressures of elected officials. She is much sought after as an advisor, particularly for students applying to law school. She earned her doctoral degree in political science from Boston University, where she also taught at their Washington, D.C. campus. Dr. Smith came to CCSU from Asnuntuck Community College. Her current research interests are in community and civic engagement, particularly among children and young adults, political science pedagogy, and the role of state courts and state court judges. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct privilege to introduce our commencement speaker, Dr. Robbin Smith.
Good evening. I remember my own graduate commencement so many years ago. It was extremely sunny and hot on the AstroTurf in the stadium in Boston that day. I remember the heat, the artificial feel of the fabric of my dark gown, my peers sitting around me too closely for any possible airflow. I also remember the excitement about obtaining my doctorate and the anxiety over my professional future. What I do not remember is a single word spoken by those on the dais that day. With that in mind, I will endeavor to be brief this evening. Just as it was for me, these are exciting and anxious times for you as well. Some of you returned to graduate school to augment your knowledge in a particular area. Some came seeking a degree that will allow you to advance in your already determined career path. Whatever the reason, through grit and perseverance, you've arrived at your goal of an advanced degree. Congratulations to you all. But for many of you, the degree awarded to you this evening, whether it is a Master of Arts in Teaching, a Master's of Science in Counseling or Construction, or a doctorate in education, that is not the end of your journey. You have further professional and perhaps even academic ambitions that you hope to achieve. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my own professional odyssey in order to illuminate the two interrelated and perhaps obvious points that I want to make this evening. First, that careers do not always follow the straightest path. And second, growth comes from experiences with life's unknowns, including adversity. If I was to select a phrase that most aptly describes my own career trajectory, I would use the words of the U.S. singer-songwriter and sometime philosopher Jerry Garcia, "What a long, strange trip it's been." Some of the fear and anxiety I experienced on that steamy summer day in the stadium may sound familiar to those of you who are facing your own uncertain futures. When I was in graduate school, the economic situation and job market for academics was poor at best. In fact, some of my more perverse grad student peers noted that the best way to find a job was to read the obituaries and tributes in the academic journals. But then, these were the same individuals in the political science department who had eagerly chosen to write their dissertations about the future of the Soviet Union, only to find mid-thesis that it no longer existed. They were indeed unsettling times. I hoped to stay in New England. I was certain that I would. After all, there are so many colleges and universities in the area. Surely I would secure a job at one of them, I thought. Or I hoped to find a job in the Midwest, where I was originally from. But the interviews I received were in New York, Pennsylvania, and elsewhere. I ended up with a temporary job in Washington, D.C., followed by a more permanent one in Washington State. Twice, I loaded my small hatchback and drove 2,700 miles across the country toward an unknown future. Finally, in 2008, a full-time position became available here at CCSU. By then, I had been out of graduate school for more than a decade. I had taught on both coasts in public and private institutions of higher education, mostly co-ed, but one single-sex institution along the way. I'd been employed at 6 colleges and universities and taught classes as large as 150 students and as small as 6. In short, I had led a peripatetic academic existence for many years. But I had followed the advice of Gilda Radner when she said, "Life is about not knowing, having to change, taking the moment, and making the best of it without knowing what's going to happen next." Delicious ambiguity, she called it. Thus, I also made the most of my experiences. Each position helped me to garner new skills, to refine my pedagogical techniques, and to advance my own research. I learned from this journey. So when that job became available at Central, I was ready for it. 5 years later, I stand before you thrilled with where I find myself today, but knowing that my enthusiasm for where I am now is very much a product of where I've been. I took chances that led me from there to here. My professional path was no way the one I planned or anticipated, and yet along the way, I met new friends, found interesting colleagues, familiarized myself with new issues and ideas, and encountered a diverse array of students and academic cultures. I went from institutions where any faculty contact with students outside of the classroom was explicitly discouraged, to colleges where if you were not having coffee with students and inviting them to your home for dinner for broader political discussions, you were not engaging with the life of the university. In other words, where I found myself on occasion was strange. So what does this have to do with you? Many of you will not seek jobs outside of Connecticut or travel from coast to coast looking for work. But all of you at some time will look for new employment options, whether that is in a new school, a new company, a new town, or a new field altogether. Career trajectories do not have to be linear, and in my experience, they rarely are. In an era of rapid change and technological improvements, we all know that flexibility and adaptability are skills that are increasingly valued by employers. While I never set out to teach in the entire gamut of higher education, my ability to adjust to each setting allowed me to flourish in the classroom and as a colleague in my many departments. I believe that your capacity to accommodate a change in job direction, description, or career path will be what allows you to be successful in the years to come. Sometimes these changes will feel strange. The new approaches, new policies, or programs may not suit your professional identity. But with each new encounter, each new challenge, you will garner additional skills and knowledge. Some refer to that more academically as lifelong learning. I like the words of Alanis Morissette, "You live, you learn." I also encourage you to embrace that delicious ambiguity that Radner mentioned, and to understand that growth comes from taking chances and risks and exploring unknown horizons. I urge you to explore these new vistas with an open mind and an open heart. Take the moment, make the best of it, as Radner said. Revel in your opportunities to meet new colleagues and to join new communities. Become citizens of the many worlds you will inhabit, from your neighborhoods and your workplace to those communities tied to your social, economic, and political interests. Meeting all of these challenges and new people and seizing all of the opportunities that arise in the next few years sounds overwhelming, I know. The idea that you will travel a winding path and confront new and unknown obstacles and ideas as part and parcel of your future career plans is daunting. But that's the root of what I'm saying to you tonight. I want each of you to realize that how you get from here to there, wherever your there is, may not be something you can plan, and the route may be convoluted indeed, but the path is well worth the work. Yuri Shulevitz, in his children's book, The Treasure, wrote, "Sometimes one must travel far to discover what is near. I learned that to get a job in the Northeast, I had to leave New England. Since I'm not from Connecticut, it has taken some time for me to realize that many people live their entire lives here, in or near the very same towns that they grew up in. My children have had teachers who attended the very schools in which they now work. I'm not asking anyone to break out of that mold, but I am asking that within all of your communities, you search for those new and dynamic forms of teaching, communicating, counseling, building, mapping, sharing, investigating, and studying that are so important for creating a better future and for engaging each new generation in the very communities in which we live. In other words, look for that ambiguity right where you've always been. So, as you sit here this evening in your own synthetic gowns, surrounded by your peers, too close for any possible airflow, simultaneously excited and anxious about your own futures, remember that the process is part of the goal. Getting from here to there will take the same grit and perseverance that you utilized to get the very degrees you are receiving this evening. It will also take the willingness to travel the long route and to appreciate the many new ideas and even the obstacles or those delicious ambiguities that you will encounter along the way. I have learned over the years as I entered and left each college and classroom that Jerry Garcia was right. Sometimes the light's all shining on me. Other times I can barely see. But the trek has been well worth it. I hope that you too enjoy your own journeys and find that no matter how long and how strange, that you end up exactly where you hoped to be. Good luck and congratulations again on your accomplishments.